Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So today I'm going to try and keep this YouTube a little bit shorter. I'm dropping some alpha in the newsletter today that I'm going to try not to talk about in this YouTube, which happens to me obviously every Friday, as you guys know. Writing the newsletter often overlaps with what I talk about on YouTube, but I'm going to try and keep that separate. What I'm going to look at mainly today is Bitcoin and what may happen next for Bitcoin. And it does relate to a lot of altcoins, but in the newsletter this week, because of what we've seen in the macro, like we've just seen flip-flopping from like USA and China throughout the whole week, just posturing, political posturing on both sides, and then starting to see some negative data in the US, but like also in China. It's just that the US is more reported on, so it's more obvious in the US that there's negative data, but we're also seeing negative data in China. If you follow me on X, I've shared that multiple times this week. So I'm leaving the macro aside this week in the newsletter and just looking at what opportunities I think there are in the markets. What do I think is coming next for Bitcoin, and then how that relates to alts and what alts I'll be picking if I do see opportunity in alts, which I do, and I'm just going to talk about those in the newsletter, as I said. So looking at Bitcoin, we've got this structure where we've kind of like bottomed out. We've talked about Bitcoin against the dollar. We didn't close this gap between our previous all-time high, our previous swing high from March of 2024, but we did close it against the euro and the pound. We talked about that as well. So we've got this structure where we've bottomed, accumulated, and then created like an impulsive movement. You could say this is impulsive or this is the impulsive movement. I would say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're looking for the fifth wave, and that's what I want to discuss here. I do think when patterns like start to formulate like this, after a bottoming period, you do get another squeeze higher, and we're seeing this across a few different altcoins that are leading the way. I'm just going to show you one because I'm not going to discuss this one in the newsletter, but I'm going to show you Sui. Sui's been leading this cycle. It's low float, high FDV, meaning that the market cap is like the fully diluted value, like the fully diluted market cap is high, but there's only like a small amount of tokens in circulation right now. This is good and bad. This is one of the reasons why, like for example, I bought ENA this cycle to follow the same suit, but within the Ethereum ecosystem. Why is it good and bad? It's good because more, like less demand will increase price, and that would not increase price as much in something that was more diluted because there's less supply. So it takes less demand to increase price. That's what I'm trying to say. But it also then works in the reverse. At some point, more tokens will be unlocked and people will need to sell those tokens. So that increases sell pressure. And again, less demand to the downside or less negative demand would also make price fluctuate more. But structurally, we've had the bottom look, we accumulated, we pushed up, and then we like chopped around at these like previous swing high levels, and then we had that spurt out to the upside. And that is something that I think that we're waiting for here on Bitcoin. So look, we've come down, we've made our bottom, we've accumulated, we've had the push up, we're looking now at these highs, and we're looking for that spurt up to the upside. Yesterday I was talking about a push towards like 100 to 104, 105,000, potentially higher, but I think that'll be the first sort of range that we push up to. If we look, actually, this will probably support it. I haven't actually checked, but if we look at the fixed range volume on this little push here, yeah, so maybe like 97, 98K. If we can get above this level, that'd be fantastic. Above that 97K level would be nice. Clear out some of this liquidity, probably chop around on top of this range. I don't know if it would be a long chop or a short chop. That's where it's a difficult one for me. It could be a few days that we spend up here, a few weeks, or it could be a little longer, but that's what I'm looking for in terms of structure. I've shown you why I think that in terms of Sui, and also when we get these movements like this, that's often what happens. This is supported by liquidity here on Bitcoin, so we're looking up towards, I said like 104K, the liquidity is looking up towards 102,000, and the reason I've got this zoomed in like this is because I'm going to show you a few things right now on the liquidity charts. On the 4 hour, this is for Bitcoin. Clearly, we have liquidity below us, but as I've said and previously, we do leave liquidity behind often to the downside because some people win in their leverage positions as we start to head higher. So the reason I've zoomed in like that is because what we would then see is Yes, we have more liquidity all the way to 109,000. And as I've said, when you start chomping through this liquidity, it's like a reflexive cycle. More and more positions get closed, which squeezes the price higher, which closes more positions, which again squeezes the price. But on the downside, we do have liquidity all the way down to 67,000 that we've not wiped. However, as I said, we do often leave liquidity behind as we head higher. With that being said, the major areas of liquidity sit up here at like $110,000 and then more at 125,000. Really maximizing, like the maximal target for this liquidity squeeze would be up to 130,000. Now, I personally believe we go higher than that because what normally happens is, let me just get rid of some drawings. Let me see if this will load. But what normally happens is, as we start to get these grinds higher, wherever it may be, come on PC, you can do it. I'll come back to this liquidity then maybe. As we start to get these grinds higher, essentially we push through the liquidity, and we do normally start to just head, like there's squeezes in price, then we form a base and then we push a little bit higher. So look, let's say we're in this sort of position here, maybe we do pull back first and then continue, or maybe we're in this position here, we get that fifth wave there, or the last push up, touch into the liquidity, reaccumulate, and then start to send it. If we were going to do a move like that, let's see if we can find bars pattern on here, which I probably can't while I'm in this. Why do I? I want to just show you a measured move of that exact same. Here we go. Let's say I think we're probably most likely like this area. So if I show you a measured move from there up to like the highs, where would that take us? Let's say we are like that. That would look quite nice. It would take us up to what, 134,000 if we did a measured move like we did back literally last year, like a year ago from now. October 24 into December 24. Sorry, it's not as long ago as I thought. December 24. That's where we could be. We could also be mimicking something like this as well. Let's see. But my point is, with the liquidity, we do often squeeze higher than the liquidity shows. So looking at this area specifically, look, we had two deep pools of liquidity, but we squeezed significantly higher realistically. So we'd be looking at, like, let's say that's the top of the liquidity. We'd be looking at still a 30% move on top of that liquidity, which would take us up to, let's see if we can get there. Just to mimic that sort of move, it would take us up to like $166,000, $170,000 Bitcoin. My target's been 180K, so that will put us in and around the ballpark that I was thinking. And normally, if it's the last leg of the move in a bull cycle, it's quite parabolic and, as I said, reflexive to the upside, where leverage positions get stopped out, which makes price move on, and then people are going to start to short, thinking the top's coming in, and then they get squeezed, and the price can go higher and higher and higher. And then at some point, you will then see the rotation into altcoins, and that's when you're going to probably see altcoins really outperform. And if we look at Bitcoin dominance, I'm going to show you this on the 3-day because I think it's interesting. The 3-day, I'm going to get rid of the stochastic for a second. The 3-day is massively overbought now on the 3-day RSI. The last time it was this overbought was here, and we did pull back, and we did make a final high before a more significant pullback. And although these don't look that big, that's 3-4% there on Bitcoin dominance, and that there is a 7% pullback, which is significant if you see that sort of rotation from there into altcoins. I think that's when XRP started to make its move, actually. So that there was what pushed XRP essentially up to, from 50 cents up to like $2.50. So if that's, oh, that's 23. I told you a lie there. It's actually this move here where XRP started to move, and which was how much percentage? 10%. So with the 10% move, we moved 5x in XRP. So if we get the top coming in here, what price could XRP go to essentially? It'd be 4 times or 40% if we saw the same rotation into XRP. So you could see 4 times a move from where we are now, potentially. Let's see. I'm just throwing some hypothetical scenarios out there, but I do think that the standard RSI is massively oversold, with price grinding up at the top of our parallel channel. We've talked about this multiple times recently. At the very least, we retrace the bottom of the channel when we get up here, and at most, we probably start our rotation out from Bitcoin. But has Bitcoin got that extra squeeze in it to get us all the way up to the 67% first? I don't know what the answer to that question is. That's what I'm looking at. I think Bitcoin probably in the short term squeezes higher. I think in the medium term we then see up to like 130 to 140 for the liquidity, to take liquidity, and as that happens then we can reassess at that time as to what comes next, whether it's going to be a self-reinforcing reflexive cycle that takes us straight up towards the 180s sort of $1,000 range is where I think we'll top out, or whether we'll accumulate at the 130, 140 region. But as we start to get up there, you'll probably see more, one, momentum enter the market, two, hype, and three, trading volume will probably pick up, as you'll see distribution at the top, but also people trying to short what they think is the top, and then that in turn helps price action to squeeze higher. The higher Bitcoin price goes, especially while dominance is high, the more liquidity there is to cycle into altcoins, and the higher we could see price targets for altcoins. So we want to cheer Bitcoin on as high as it could possibly go, and then see some of that liquidity hopefully rotate if a history repeats, which I obviously presume it will. The ultimate goal is to see Bitcoin dominance chop, maybe slightly increase as Bitcoin goes up and not suck in all the liquidity. If you're an altcoin holder, there is a world where Bitcoin starts to just chop up in terms of dominance, may stay the same, price action heavily expands, but also altcoins really perform well as well. And then we see the rotation. So let's say like in a perfect world, you might see XRP go to $3, $4, maybe $5 as Bitcoin hits 180,000 or 150, 180,000. And then you see the rotation from Bitcoin, which could really send XRP and other altcoins significantly higher than the price targets that we expect of the 8 to 13, 14, $15. It could go to $20-ish if we saw something like that. That's what I'd be looking at. So that's where I am. That's what I think about the market generally. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please do like and share it with a friend, and subscribe, obviously, of course. Peace up, A-Town Downs, Crypto Insight UK would say.